you're not spiritually, emotionally, and your family's not okay, then that's going to impact on a whole lot of other things as well.
A big uppy to these two nurses for all the amazing work that they do. Big yay!
The reason that there's three is we actually want to feed it into the other occupations, and I think we spoke to them about just picking like three main things. We want to see how things overlap. So that doesn't mean that all the other points fall away. Absolutely not. I think we just want to make sure we understand what are the top three, so that we can start saying, you know, what are the overlaps that we actually can see across, because part of this today is actually this exact same thing happening in all over the country, and that's one of the things we thought of doing. It doesn't mean it's the only thing, it doesn't mean that any of the points fall away, but that's one of the things we're trying to do.
We understand that, we're just sort of bringing out that house again.
How would everyone here feel about one of our three things being a priority of human rights and well-being, which can encompass everything that you guys were just talking about then? And I mean, that is a society based on the priorities of a society that puts forward, values human rights and well-being first, or prioritises human rights and well-being. Prioritises? Yeah.
I just want to also add that human rights is a very broad term, and everybody has their own idea of what it actually is.
We said human rights and we came up with 10 things that would fall into that category.
Yeah, and I'm sure if you actually put it to a larger group, it would come up with 50.
Yeah.
So
just the Bill of Rights is a good start, though.
Yeah.
Alistair?
Yeah. When we're talking human rights, some people might go, human rights, what is that? And go, oh, your definition doesn't count in some way, some of it does, and your one doesn't, and your one doesn't. And trying to keep human rights as minimal as possible. I think the concept here is we don't want to minimalise human rights, we want to maximise. So you've got your 10, somebody's got 15, somebody's got 3. Let's look at them all and figure out if we actually want to get rid of any of them, because we might want all of them.
Just to reply, the rights of the many outweighing the rights of the few.
Is that right?
Yes.
It's a premise that we can
We are the 99%. And the 1%, our rights outweigh the rights of the few, the capitalists.
Maybe we can keep this definition of human rights another conversation.
Well, I think it's central actually to the concept of a vision for the movement. And to reply immediately that the Occupy movement seemed to be generated against the financial system. The 1%. The people and the power who control society. This is the real world, not some fantasy land, right? They're rising up against the system, against the capitalist system, right? This is not a fairy story or a child's booklet, right? So I'll come back to it and I'll finish. New democracy and an anti-capitalist new democracy.
If we've got the hand lifted,
We're going to need to talk and define and redefine and work out what we define as how we are going to prioritise human rights and what they are and well-being. That's not going to be a discussion that we're going to finish this evening. This is going to be something we're going to be working with probably for the rest of our lives. So hopefully if we carry on these people's parliaments throughout the country, we can, and throughout the world, there's global conferences going on now, we can actually take that step within this movement.
Yes?
Yes, well, okay, so I think what we're trying to do is communicate 3 pillars of our vision, and so we should hone down on the 3 broadest phrases or words that we can use in our language to communicate a lot of things that are under them, and a lot of them really, really important, and more important than the actual word itself that we're going to use, but the word is to convey this concept of these ideas that are under them. And I think, you know, equality is certainly one of them, and I guess that's what we're trying to figure out now. But human rights to me, like equality, human rights are under equality to me. Everyone has their rights. They're equal. So
is equality a human right?
Well, it is in our vision, because that's our pillar. For society, for everybody. So each human gets equality.
So maybe if we go back to defining, we've got one point here, which is the priority of human rights and well-being, which is something we all agree on, but we all agree needs to be looked at and delved into a lot more.
So just we have some trouble with the priority of human rights and well-being. We can just say priority of human beings.
What about the other beings?
No, the other beings can be in the environmental, but like a priority for this new world, that's gonna be the human beings, you know. All the rights, the equality, everything, you know.
There you go.
That you can go just the priority of the human beings, you know.
A direct response. I mean, as much as I care about human beings, I also care about like trees and water.
Yeah, but
so
you are looking for three umbrellas. The first, that's gonna be the priority of the human being. The second, that's gonna be the environment, sustainability. The first, one umbrella has to be the priority of the human being.
Which is the human rights, right? That's what.
No, I don't know human rights.
I know, but we know
the human beings has to be the priority, not the rights, because the rights can change. We can make new rights.
I think coming back to what Lucy was saying earlier, this is like a lot of an argument about language actually, and what we should I think aim for is keeping it. I know there's a lot that you could use to convey what we're trying to say, but we should maybe keep it simple. And maybe you think that it doesn't cover certain things that you're trying to convey, but let's hone in on sort of a broad word or phrase that can umbrella what we're trying to convey. And that's why I thought true equality. If there was true equality, then human rights would be inherent. And that's why I still like true equality, but that's just my...
How does everyone feel about true equality being one of the primarily things? Okay, well then we got our first point.
Just to clarify, I think what we're trying to do right now is to get the set of goals. So later on, we can talk about how are we going to do these goals, how are we going to reach these goals. So let's keep that in mind.
And also about how we're going to explicitly define them further as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
We all agree in that process?
Cool. So, one of these, yay, first consensus. Okay, cool. So, should we move on to planet? How do people feel about the term sustainable resource use? Or do we need to look for something broader that says
Sustainable use of resources.
love for the planet, or respectful and sustainable resource use, or respectful and sustainable interactions with the planet?
Yes.
Respectful and sustainable interactions.
Can we try maybe stewardship, sustainable stewardship planet? Because that stewardship is like an active interaction. We are continuously trying to improve, but it's not like you're just sitting there and looking at the trees. You're using the trees, but you're getting a relationship going. To clarify, I heard before symbiotic relationship. Is that similar to? Yeah. Like recognizing that we're all one organism living together here, and we should take care of each other and respect each other.
Yeah, I would like to use the word stewardship for our relationships with the planet, because it means sustaining and it means using at the same time, and it means having respect for, and I mean it comes under equality as well. It's sort of recognising your place in the cosmic world, I guess. So I mean my pillar, one of them would be sustainable stewardship of the planet and the planet's resources.
Sustainable and respectful stewardship of the planet and its resources?
I mean, sustainability and respect are built into stewardship anyway.
Yes, I think sustainability, it's already have that respectful use of the resources. It's already in the world, but I don't know.
Can I propose that we go even broader, as we do with the first point, and just say true sustainability, meaning true environmental sustainability, true cultural, social sustainability as well. Systems that really last in the broadest sense of the word sustainability, like infinite sustainability.
Infinite sustainability.
Infinite sustainability?
And then we come back and define what that means. Okay, good.
Has anybody got any examples of sustainability that they know of? How do we define what sustainable eating or sustainable earth is in terms of that? Like, can you give me some examples of that?
I think sustainable would mean creating a process that is everlasting. Like you see the cycle of water, which, you know, you have rain, it goes onto the mountain, it goes onto the river, it goes back into the ocean and up in the air again to land on the mountain. It's like a circle that can go everlasting. It's a sustainable.
It
Would
sustains
that be
itself
an
without
example?
exhausting itself.
I guess measuring, identifying the resource, measuring the resource, and then equating the needs for that resource and managing that, however you want to define it, mathematically or scientifically, by being conscious of the resource. As an example, it's hard to come up with one because we've got so many. So it is. Again, it's an umbrella.
But I think it's a broad thing, it's fine, and it should be part of the vision, but because there are so many things that come under it, they really, I mean, it could take weeks, it could take months, it could take years to define each. I mean, sustainable to you is not, may not be my definition, and it may not be his definition, or his or hers. So I think it's a great umbrella, but they will need to be defined. Absolutely, yeah.
Is that an answer or yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it's but I think we like, as you break down all these things, you have to find examples in nature or between humans and nature where it's actually occurring now, so that we can use that as a scientific example to follow that method, you know?
This is an idea, I'm late to the conversation, so shoot me now if you like. But we've got equality, we've got sustainability, can we just throw in democracy as the third pillar?
But I think that's peace.
It goes in equality.
Okay.
So we're a group.
Can I bring in something? I probably should have brought it in earlier, but when you spoke about the three pillars, I instantly thought about cultural safety and the Treaty of Waitangi and the 3 Ps that have come from the Treaty of Waitangi, which are protection, participation and partnership. And all of those things can slot in because everything overlaps anyway. It all feeds into each other. It's a whole big circle. And maybe what your 3 pillars could be are those 3 words and everything, because everyone's ideas can slot into something that, you know, it can all fit in under there. And it's a really good, it's kind of like a model, isn't it? Maybe what you need is a model, which are your 3 pillars, and then you just work through it, and like you're doing now. But maybe instead of those words, use other words like protection, because that's environment, that's people, that's our rights, or, you know, just throw that in there. Sorry, just protection, participation, and partnership. So that's a very broad words. Yes, they are, but lots of things can fit in, and that comes from the Treaty of Waitangi, and that's using the health systems. So,
that's the contribution of the health system.
That's what we use in our practice.
Oh yeah. Again, this is arguing. We're kind of discussing language here, but what I'm sort of arguing is, or I'm discussing in my head is sort of what you're saying. Participation as part of the Treaty of Waitangi, kind of cooperation and these words, but also compassion and love and whatever is encompassed under there. And together, and we were trying to think of something, and we couldn't think of a word to do that. But that's why we put interdependency or cooperation and compassion. Just throwing it out there.
What about cooperation, compassion, and love for the whole planet, or like for the Earth and all its inhabitants?